Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of Candle Face Chronicles. I have Infantry Rob and Sara with me.
Love it.
I'm going to start calling you that. I'm going to start
Infantry
calling
Rob.
Yeah.
Take it.
So thank you for both of y'all to be here today. I have a really good show. I'm really excited about this. I'm not going to let President Biden hijack my episode this time. There was always something going on Thursdays, so I figured, I'm going to switch to Wednesdays. Nothing happens on Wednesdays, and of course, he gives his brief today.
Yeah.
And then when football season starts, they always have it on. There's always a Thursday night football game, so hopefully by Wednesday I can get rid of that because they can't compete with me.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 9 innings in football, so
true.
You could probably squeeze a show in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Is that when they make goals? I don't even know.
Yes. Go team, score goals.
Yeah. Baskets, something.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have Mr. Smoe in the backstage. Mr. Smoe is quite the interesting character. I had an interview with him back in November of last year. I've been trying to get a hold of him for the longest time, but he wouldn't answer my emails. Got his phone number. He wouldn't answer until finally he says, okay, I will do an interview with you. And then he called up and says, no, I can't do it. I had a dream. Candle Face. No, can't do it. Then he contacts me back and says, okay, I'll do it. So I drove from Houston, where I live, to Austin, to my old neighborhood where I grew up at. I walked by his house dozens and hundreds of times probably. And he invited me in. I got my camera and I got everything set up. And we had an interview, but it only lasted maybe 10, 15 minutes before I asked some inappropriate questions and he kicked me out. And maybe so, but I know what you're thinking, Sara. He goes, no, you wouldn't do that.
You asked inappropriate questions?
No, I wouldn't do that. But he contacted me this time and says he has some information to share with me. And I think it's outstanding information, but I think I'm going to hold off on that information for a future podcast because I need more research. But if a little teaser, the last podcast that I had, I talked about victim number 3, 2 individuals, a male and female, boyfriend, girlfriend, that went to Austin and to meet up with his childhood friend. And while they were there, the childhood friend started talking about Candle Face and they started making fun of him. Candle Face, what's that? And they made fun of him, and he left his house, came back with some 3 friends that ended up axing and killing the boyfriend and girlfriend. And according to the spirit that came to me, they those 3 individuals and the friend put them in the back of his own car and drove what he believes an hour away and dumped their bodies in a gravel pit. And didn't really describe what a gravel pit is. It could just be a bunch of rubble from a construction site. Or I took it as an actual gravel site where they sell gravel. So I did some research and I made a list of all the different gravel sites within a 60-minute drive in the middle of the night. Because a 60-minute drive during the day is different.
Yeah, very different.
Plus, in Austin, we're all highways. Most roads go north and south, not east and west. So north and south, you could go further than east and west. So I try to, elongate what that 60-mile, and I made a list of those gravel pits. Well, Mr. Smoe calls me up and says, I won't spoil it for a future episode, but he was like, what the hell are you guys doing? You're asking for all this help and no one's helping you. I will help you. And he showed me some newspaper articles, texted me these newspaper articles from the past where it was a male and female from Houston that went to Austin to visit one of his childhood friends, and that was the last I heard of him.
Hmm.
But they believe that police mentioned about finding blood in his home, which the spirit told me that there was blood in the home, but was not seen by law enforcement. But according to this, they did find this man's car in Houston. So, and the guy who was visiting, the two boyfriend girlfriend went to Austin to visit, bought a Greyhound ticket from Houston to Austin. I mean, why would you do that? You know, and so they found a car in Houston, walking distance from the train
Greyhound
station, or
Wow.
from the Greyhound, and the guy had an association with a gravel pit in Lockhart, Texas, which is an hour south of Austin.
Hmm.
And they had cadaver dogs. They smelt human bodies, but they could not find the bodies. So it really does jive. And he, Mr. Smoe, did give me a hard time as far as like, why couldn't you figure this out? You know, you're the investigator. You're relying too much on other people to do it. You just need to start doing it yourself. And so,
How are you like Mr. Snow?
yeah. He's a good guy. But I want to bring him on, but we're not going to necessarily talk about that. I want to talk to him about how he came about Candle Face, because he talks about being a Candle Face disciple.
Okay.
And he preaches practically Candle Face.
Wow.
And he talks to everybody who would be willing to listen.
Well, that's cool. I certainly am. And I just want to say in advance, I can't stay very, very long, and I don't want to impede on Mr. Smoe's time. And I think Sarah's in the same boat. I know she just got back from a crazy day, but if I drop off, that's why. Okay. But I'll wait.
Let me bring him on. And he wants to stay anonymous, so that's why his name is Mr. Smoe.
That was going to be my first question.
Yeah, I already have a Mr. Doe, so he had to become Mr. Smoe. And
love.
So what you'll see is just his ceiling fan spinning, and hopefully we can hear him speak. So let me bring up Mr. Smoe. Can you hear me, Mr. Smoe?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have my voice mask?
You're oh yes. So he has a very distinctive low voice, like Darth Vader. So I had to use some trickery to mask his voice to make it more high pitch.
Oh,
so,
man.
All right. So yes,
more people need to come here. More people need to be on this show watching what you're doing, because what you're doing, Arthur, and the people that are stepping forward, this is big. This is big information.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Mr. Smoe can give us some insight into who Candle Face is, and we can go from there. Mr. Smoe, so I know you live in South Austin, around the El Paso Road, South First Street area.
Yes. Yeah, I do.
And can you tell me a little bit about when you started drinking alcohol? And if I remember correctly, you became an alcoholic at age 13, 15?
Age 13. 13.
Okay.
Well, my father was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So alcohol was easy for me to get a hold of, because he never, ever ran out. And we had a really bad home life. He was a flaming, he was not a very nice guy.
Yeah.
So I started, if it worked for him, I drink a little bit, and pretty soon I was drinking every day. I'd drink a little whiskey before school. I'd have a little bit when I got home. I'd have a little bit before he got home. I'd drink before I went to bed, and I was an alcoholic, and it stuck with me for a number of years.
Okay. I do want to speed it up a little bit because I think Sara and Rob here can really help out, but their time is limited.
Okay.
So let's go into the day that you met Candle Face, and we'll speed it up to the point where, if I remember correctly, you had a gun or a revolver, something up to your head. Can you go a little bit into details with that?
My life was just in the toilet, so I put a gun to my head, and I was going to take care of the problem. And I didn't know the person as Candle Face at the time. I just, because that's what you've told me the name is, or from studying what you've done. And so she appeared out of the shadows and told me that I didn't have to do that she could help me. So I knew that she knew I was in trouble, and she helped me.
How did she help you?
She told me, not to do that, and that she would take my pain away. And I felt the voices going away. My father used to tell me what a piece of dirt I was. And so I could always hear myself telling myself I was shit. Sorry, I know you probably don't want cussing. And so she told me she'd take care of that pain, and the voices went away, the pain went away, and I haven't drank since. I don't smoke anymore. I don't drink. And I've gone to help others because she wanted me to help others.
How do you help others?
They need to believe in Candle Face. They need to believe in her. And she will help them through the things that are going wrong in their life, the problems that they're having, the voices that they have. She'll help them out. Very compassionate. She saved my life.
Yeah. What do you think is her ultimate goal, her purpose?
I don't know that I know that. She wants to get more people in her surroundings, and she's willing to help them. So if they believe in her, and you need to believe in Candle Face, when you believe in her, she will help you out. And people that, they had drug problems and alcohol problems and problems dealing with their past, she's helped them out.
Yeah. So, Mr. Smoe, I do got to ask you this. I know this is something that upsetted you the first time that we had an interview. I asked you about Candle Face's compassion. It sounds like she's very compassionate. What you said then and what you're saying now, she helps people out. But you also mentioned, and from what the lost souls that come to me, she actually haunts and ultimately kills those that don't believe in her. I'm sorry, but how is that compassionate to kill those that don't believe in her?
If you've ever been, in bad shape, where you're an alcoholic, you're a drug user, you're a prostitute, your life is shit, you either need to get out of that by being healed, or it's time to move on. I was going to help myself to leave. I needed to go. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand the voices all night long. I could not hear the voices, and I felt terrible. And other people that they live on the streets, they're using drugs, they're using alcohol, they're trying to drown that. You can't drown that kind of stuff. You can't do it. And you believe in Candle Face, and she'll help you out, or she'll help you the other way. And that's compassion. If I didn't get fixed, I would have rather have left. I would have blown my own brains out because I didn't know any other answer. And she helped me with what an answer was.
Yeah. So you believe that's justified to go after non-believers and potentially kill them, but leave those others untouched?
Yeah, I think so. I'm sure glad she came into my life. She scares me. She's very powerful. I don't know what you think of her, but she's very powerful.
Yeah.
That's somebody's doing a
Yeah. Where's that coming from?
right.
No, that's me. That's one of the background music
Okay.
Okay.
sound
I was
effects.
gonna say, that just scared me.
Jesus. Sarah already knows what I'm thinking. We actually had a conversation that could fall in line with, at least the high level components of this story just yesterday, I believe. I don't remember when it was, Sarah. But go ahead. I know you have a thought.
Well, are you talking about what shows up in our life
Yeah.
when
we
we're
meet.
at rock bottom? That was actually today. You have no
That was
concept.
today? See? I can't remember.
But I am interested, Arthur, and because I feel like he brings a very different element to what Candle Face is. And I admittedly don't, I only know what I know through you, Arthur, right? I don't have that knowledge of what her lure is. But when you hear Mr. Smoe talk about where he was in his life and how she showed up, and remembering your story as a child about how she showed up, I think where I'm confused is you're saying Candle Face actually, she partakes in having people do the work of killing someone or killing themselves. Is that the concept behind?
That is in some cases, in probably most cases of the 35 lost souls that have came to me, they're either killed by her supporters or they ended up committing suicide because every time they're alone, they hear Candleface's voice, or when they blink, they see Candleface to the point where they just can't handle it anymore. So they OD or they commit suicide to get rid of that pain. In other cases, Candleface just kills them outright, comes to them in the middle of the night. So I've seen it both ways when it comes to these lost souls.
So is she a form of an angel of death?
I don't know, Mr. Smoe. What do you think? Is she a ghost? Is she a devil? Is she a demon? Is she an alien? Any idea what she?
Alien? An alien? No, I don't fucking think so. She's real. I don't know. I don't know, but she's real. She's every bit real, and she's helped the people out.
Right.
She's helped everybody out that are willing to believe in her. That's somebody that's not fake, and that's not some flew in a flying saucer. I mean, it's not like that. She's real.
Do we believe she was a living person at one point that is past, and now this is what she's doing in the afterlife, or was she always a part of the afterlife?
No, I think she was real at some point.
Okay.
I mean, like human, like
Yeah,
like
living.
us. And she had a rough time, And so now she's helping those that have had a rough time.
Yeah.
You know, so as it will irritate some people, right? But I can kind of I understand where Mr. Smoe is coming from. You know, it's just a different version of help. You know, if you listen to what Mr. Smoe is saying, so it's like fix your life, or I'll fix it, right? And in those cases, I get where he's coming from. So everything becomes easier because that flesh and blood moment is ended. I understand the sentiment there, and people won't like that, right? Nobody is a proponent of, most people aren't, at least, of someone's life being taken, but it's the other side of it, right? That relief and that release from the torture of whatever affliction or whatever's really going on with them. So I get Mr. Smith. I get where he's coming from. Let's put it that way. I understand it. Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's a pretty intense story right there. Mr. Smoe. So you were young, right? Was there anything prior to that moment when Candleface revealed herself to you? Was there anything that you can recall?
Not that I remember. Of course, I was pretty drunk most of the time, but I don't think so.
Okay. And like, were you going to school all banged up, or did you not even bother going?
I didn't go a whole lot because
Okay.
my father kicked my ass a lot.
Okay.
Can I ask if you'd had any other paranormal type experiences as a child outside of Candleface?
Not that I recall, no.
Okay.
And I was an adult when Candleface came to me. I was back in the house. When my parents died, I got the house and I was living there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was an adult, had a gun.
Okay.
And I just had too many years of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't recall ever remembering anything like this until that day.
Mr. Smoe, while you're talking about this subject, can you describe Candleface in more detail that day when you had the gun to your head? How she came to you? What was the circumstances?
She came out of the shadows, like by the wall, and approached me. And when she got close to me, I could see that. You know, that's why I really think it's Candleface, because of the almost melted skin. The eyes, the nose were gone. It was just sockets. There was a smell of burned, kind of a burned flesh, and then there was a crackling sound. You know, I've said before, it's like water boiling, but it's more like bacon. When it fries, it snaps and crackles, and between the smell and that, I mean, you knew that she wasn't just a person that I didn't see come in the door. It was something far beyond that.
Yeah.
And then once she asked me if I believe, and the voices had pretty much gone away, and I said I do believe, because I did. I knew I was different. I put the gun down. It was different. And she faded back and left. And physically, that was the only time I've seen her. But she comes to me at night. And when I've helped, and when she needs more people that she can help, she comes to me at night. It's like a dream, but it's like it's there. And I can recall the smell and the sounds again, but it's like a dream.
Yeah. You know, that's so interesting, because that's how I remember Candleface coming to me when I was just a kid. And I use that same description, that it sounded like frying bacon. and
Yes.
while I'm laying there, and then she will climb up on top of my chest and just start tapping away. But I can feel the splattering of the hot grease
Yes.
on my
Yes.
face. And it's just so amazing that you described it fairly similar.
Yes.
When she communicated with you, was it spoken word or was this just an understanding or a knowing?
I don't know that I'm sure.
Okay.
I think it was just I knew what she was saying, but I mean, it wasn't like having a conversation necessarily.
Right.
It was more, I knew what she was talking about. I put the gun down. I knew I could hear her, but it wasn't. And as she backed away, it wasn't like there was, now she's further away, her voice is softer or anything. It's like, I don't know. It's like it was in my head.
Wow.
But I'm not nuts. It's not like I just had some problems.
Yeah. So have you or Arthur, have you guys, because I wouldn't know this, but have you guys tried to sort of hone in on who she was before she was this entity, this energy? Have you tried to figure out who the real, I mean, she's a real person, right? Like I know we give her Candle Face and that's her space, but to try to discover who she was before might give some insight as to why she's doing what she's doing now.
Yeah, that was my intent, and I would like to go to that eventually. My website has two parts: has the Lost Soul and Genesis. Genesis was supposed to be first, and Genesis, I had no idea, but the Lost Souls would be coming to me. I was just researching Candle Face. I wanted to see, did she really die in the fire that was burned down at the empty lot next door? I wanted to find out that type of stuff. I started doing the research and found out it wasn't a little girl that died in the fire. It was a 2-year-old boy. I've always learned that my house was a duplex and a little girl died in that fire, but come to find out that's not true. So in my research in October of last year is when I started all this, I started realizing, well, Candleface didn't die in the fire or die in my house, then who in the hell is Candleface? And then at that point is when I was going to start doing even more research, but then that's when I started having those weird dreams of different sightings and voices and shadows, and then eventually it became more coherent and I could understand the voices. And then that's when the Lost Souls started. But eventually I would like to go back to researching her and getting more into Genesis, more into her. I've had people send me emails stating they think this is the Lost Souls are not real. This is just Candleface messing with me. And because I was getting too close, I was figuring out too much. And this was her way of
Distracting you.
Distracting me. However, of the 35 lost souls, 6 of them have been identified, at least enough to where they are real people. Like these two, victim number 3, which is real two people from Houston going to Austin. It's almost exact.
Can I throw a theory in here? And because I hear the emotion behind Mr. Smoe's voice, right? You can hear his emotion about this story, his story. Arthur, you've been so gracious to share your part of the Candle Face story. And hearing how Mr. Smoe sort of describes her role, could this entity, could this energy, spirit, however we want to describe it, when Mr. Smoe speaks about his experience, which led him to his encounter with her, your encounter with her, with, you know, your brother having, you know, the bullies in the neighborhood and you know, the situation that was happening there, could the representation she gives, the melted, you know, features with the smell of burning and the crackling, you know, when we talk about our angst, our traumas that come to the surface that are there, they're real. Could this sort of encompass her? And she's this representation of all these traumas together, almost like when you guys describe her, I feel like you're describing a living hell, right? She's sort of this living hell, but she's taking on those sorrows. She took on Mr. Schmoe's sorrow, right? She took that away from him for him to set the gun down. So could she be this representation of all these bad stories and bad traumas? Do we know if the victims themselves, like these lost souls that are finding you, what were their traumas that are contributing to her being attached to these stories?
It seems like of the 35, a great majority have some kind of trauma. Maybe they're drugs themselves, but then I've had a businessman that was very successful. I even had a paranormal investigator that was very successful from San Antonio that came to Austin to investigate Candle Face. So many of them, and I had another successful man that had his own big boat that was killed by Candle Face. So I would say maybe 75% had some kind of mental or physical issue, drug related, but not in every case. But I would like to know what Mr. Smoe here thinks of this. What's your hypothesis?
I can tell you that a lot of the prostitutes were not drug users. They had sexual abuse as young girls, and they weren't alcoholics, they weren't drug users, they were hurting because of their past. And when they believed, they got out of prostitution, their life turned around. And most of the time I because they weren't friends, but I lost contact with them. And a lot of them, you know, when you talk to other prostitutes, they'd say she's out of the business. They term it a business, and she's out. And you talk to the drug users, those have stopped using drugs. I had one guy I remember I dealt with kind of a lot. I was afraid he was going to end up dead, but he used to use some kind of drug. I guess it was pretty heavy duty stuff. He used to term it junk, and he would use it all the time, and he was completely clean and didn't go to a rehab or anything. So it's some are drugs, some are alcohol, and for both, and some are prostitutes that just had a terrible life.
And so what did you tell them when you went to these homeless camps, to the prostitutes? What did you tell them? Did you talk about how compassionate Candle Face is? Did
Yes.
you warn them not to disbelieve, to follow her? How did that go?
Normally not, because I'm certainly have been scared. She's very powerful. And so just like the day that, you know, last year when you talked to me and interviewed me, I it's like I get upset because I don't want to do something that makes her think I'm being a dick to her. You know, I don't want to do that. But I talk to these people and tell them, I know I've been like you. I know that you're hurting and I can help. I know somebody that if you believe, she will help you.
So just so I'm clear, right? I think I'm starting to piece this together. So Mr. Smoe is sort of a Candle Face evangelist, right? And you go out and speak to people that are down on their luck,
Uh,
or used to at least.
well, not anymore. I've got some health issues and I don't go out a lot, but it is more than down on their luck. It's people that are really in trouble. You know, when you talk to an alcoholic or a drug user, I mean, not just a weekend drug user. I mean, somebody that stays high all the time,
Understood. Yeah.
and prostitutes and stuff. They're hurting. Those are the people that I contact. I go up and talk to them
Mhm.
because they need help. I know what it was like. I needed help, and they need help. I just physically can't do it anymore.
So is that why you reached out to Arthur? Or so I know Arthur reached out to you a year ago. Is that what you said? Sometime last year?
Well,
Yeah.
he reached out to me first, but I think it was 13 years ago or so is when I first wrote The Empty Lot Next Door.
Okay.
And he then reached out to me, but I blew it off because I was getting so many emails from so many people, people saying they saw Candle Face. And then I moved on from The Empty Lot Next Door and I started writing other novels.
Okay.
And so I just collected them. And then when I started doing the research, I decided to go back through. But most of the people, and I had dozens, most of them have already passed away. A lot of them were older gentlemen. But yeah, originally he contacted me, then I contacted him back.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the bigger picture here. And on the side, and you have to expect that there's some big opinions coming in from the side, or thoughts of, I should say thoughts about it. You know, especially I know Wade. You know, Wade works closely with dealing with darker things, and Rich, and looking at Bob asking questions. So Mr. Smoe, so you've been watching Arthur, and the way Arthur described it, at least, is like, you're like, hey, dummy, like, it's right in front of you. Go start looking. I have that part right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what I can add to this, but here's what I'll tell you, and it does lead to it lends to the conversation I had with Sara just this morning. There was a moment in my life too where it just wasn't going to end well that morning, and that's actually the morning that I reached out to Sara without even knowing her. Yeah, I didn't really know her. I just knew someone told me I needed to reach out to her, and I did. And there have been a bunch of other people that I've spoken with that they too were kind of at the end of their own rope, and that's when something changed. That's when the paranormal really revealed itself. That's when universe or whatever steps in to give you what you really need at that moment.
Right.
But this all sounds, again, depending on how which lens you look at this through, right? This sounds like a beautiful story. This sounds like a horror story. This sounds like it could be, as Wade is saying, potentially a demonic type of thing. I don't know. This story in itself is pretty crazy. I mean, Mr. Smoe, I'm glad that this happened for you, and that you're still here to tell your story. Arthur, I'm glad you're looking into it. It sounds, I think Sara was trying to hit on this point earlier. It sounds like she's Candle Face serves different roles for different people.
Yeah. It's probably true.
So, Mr. Smoe, what advice do you have for those people who do not believe, even after they hear what you've been saying today, like all the viewers, what is your advice to them?
It's smart to believe. You should believe, because she has power. She's very powerful. And believers, she helps out. And I don't know. I think it's worth it to, if she comes to you, to accept that and let her help you.
Okay, now let's say somebody doesn't believe and they blow off Candle Face. I still have a hard time wrapping my head around that. The ultimate punishment would be for her to kill or have one of her followers kill on her behalf.
Well, my belief is at this point that she obviously hasn't killed everybody that isn't a believer. Those that can't find another way out of their living hell, that is one of the options. And I don't know, I think in that way she helps, or has somebody, one of her believers, help her out with that.
Mhm.
But it's not 100%. It's not like everybody, it's either you believe in me or I'm going to take you out. But it's something that, especially if you're having problems, you better believe.
Yeah.
It's worth it to believe.
So Bob here has a question for you. He says, did you ever hear about Candle Face before she came to you?
Well, you had it in the book under that name, didn't you?
I called her Candle Face in the book. That's what I called her, and I was such a young kid. I didn't really know what else to call her, so I called her Candle Face. But no, I never mentioned the name Candle Face to anybody except for my brother Ricky. Not even to my best friends. It was always Ricky. So nobody ever heard of her as Candle Face until after The Empty Lot Next Door came out in 2010.
Well, I didn't think of her at that. Like when I first met her, I remember telling somebody that it looked like her face, her skin looked like a candle that had melted. But I don't think I ever called her Candle Face until I've met you. And that was like the name. I remember saying she was like a melted candle because her skin looked like it was melted. But years ago, I didn't know of her of any name. I didn't have any name for her. I just knew that I remember telling a friend of mine at an AA meeting, I said, if she ever comes to you and she looks like a melted candle, is kind of her face is run from the heat, you better believe.
So when Candle Face kills those that don't believe in her, how do you feel about that? Do you think it's justified? I mean, are you okay with it?
I guess I look at it like this. When you're in that bad of condition, you need help. Not everybody's going to be able to help you. I guess it's like if you go to an emergency room, not everybody's going to live. Well, not everybody's going to survive. And maybe what she's doing, the way I've looked at it, is she's helped them, to the next life. If she can't help them to get better, stop the drugs and get rid of the voices and the pain, then she's going to help them the other way.
So Carmen, there was a point. So I don't know what you're using to mask the voice there. But there were a couple times. I don't know if there's some weird audio matrixing happening, but there was a point where I did. It sounded like a female, like.
I heard a voice too.
Really? I didn't hear it on my side.
I'm alone.
You heard
I'm
that
all
too,
alone.
Sarah?
I live alone.
I heard actually a couple times. I didn't know if it was an echo or but I heard somebody talking, but below where we're talking, I could hear.
Was it female sounding?
Oh God.
That I can't tell you.
It didn't sound
No,
like
Bob. Like I know what the fan sound is. There was something else. I wear hearing aids, so I hear weird kind of shit. But Carmen's hearing that the fan. That's the fan. That. But there was a point where I did hear some. What sounded like
I heard
a
it like
female.
twice.
Yeah.
I heard a voice twice. Not what we're hearing right now.
Yeah,
That's not
Carmen,
what it was.
The screams
And that's
are.
how she comes to me. Often it's like a voice like, I'm alone here. I live alone. There's nobody around. So it's not anybody talking from my end.
Mr. Smoe, I don't even remember you having a TV in the living room, so it can't be a TV.
Well, I don't have a connection to it. I do have one. I think it's in the bedroom now, put away. I haven't had like TV for years. So I mean, like cable or a satellite. I don't have any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So Rich, that woman scream, that was something I added. Maybe that was a bad timing, but
Yeah, it was because he
I
got me earlier with it. Arthur hit the screen button. And Mr. Smoe, you got to change that light bulb. It's driving me fucking crazy.
Oh,
It's got a light
fix it.
out.
Get it.
Sorry.
No, I'm joking with you. Yeah, I don't know. Right, this story gets weirder and stranger. I hear the conviction in Mr. Smoe's voice, and it's almost an ominous warning, right? For sure, because sounds like it. So, Mr. Smoe, like, what? It's you say you've got some health problems. You don't go out as much anymore. Are you looking to pass the torch? Are you hoping someone will continue the work you were doing at least?
No, if she wants somebody, she'll get them.
Okay.
She'll know who's right for what she needs.
And Mr. Smoe, I got another question for you. If a disbeliever, when somebody shows that they disbelieve, is their fate sealed, or is there a chance they can start believing? At what point is there a point of no return?
I don't know all that. She doesn't discuss it with me. I'm sure is watching me make contact, if you will, and people that are believers. And I know she's probably guiding me to certain people that need help, but we don't discuss it. We just, and I don't know who all's, to be honest, I don't know like who's died and who hasn't. But I have the feeling that when they're really bad and they don't believe and they need help, that's an avenue for her, because I know people have disappeared.
Yeah. I have a possible answer to that. It seems like several of the lost souls that came to me would ridicule whoever or say, "Oh, I don't believe in Candle Face. I don't believe any of that." And then when Candle Face appears, they like, "Oh, I believe now. I believe now." It's just like there's no atheists and foxholes, right?
Right.
Now they see Candle Face and I believe. And then she whispers and says, "It's too late." And she kills him. So it's interesting to me is like, is there a grace period? Because there's several times where these lost souls will say they ridicule Candleface, but it's several days, several weeks later where Candleface is coming to them at night saying,
Well,
believe, believe. And then they continue.
you know, I don't have anything to do with like the after I've been there, after I've discussed it with them, after I you know, I may go back down in the area again and sometimes hear some things, but I don't always know what happens when she shows up. I don't know. I just try to stay. She asked me to find believers, and that's all I do, because I don't want to cross her at all. She's
Okay.
very powerful.
Mr. Smoe, very interesting, and I don't want to upset you, but do you feel that maybe you are responsible for some of these deaths?
No. All I do is try to talk to them about like what's helped me, because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for her. I would not be here. And so I just try to help her to you know, as the living person that talks to some people to try to get them help that they need. And I don't have any part to do with that. And there's a lot of those people are going to end up taking too much dope, or they're going to kill themselves in a different way. And I have the feeling she helps, but I've never been there. I don't know. I don't know.
We have a few minutes left. Sarah, Rob, do you have any closing statements or anything that y'all would like to ask Mr. Smoke before we time out?
You know, I think the story, you know, you've got on the side here, Mr. Smoe and Arthur, you know, between Rich and Wade, I don't know all of Bob's experiences, but or any, but you know, I think what they're adding to the conversation, and right, like it's good to be open and to hear all the pieces that could fit in. They have, I believe, between Wade and Rich, there's a lot of experiences with the more, like, I think Rob, you used the term dark, you know, darker entities or darker stories, more a little negative, even though Mr. Smoe does state for him, Candleface is not a negative. It's not her per se that's the negative piece. It's us maybe not having that faith in turning a new leaf, maybe. There's a lot to take in from this for sure. And it's just getting, those layers are just now being peeled back.
Well, I think she's negative. I know Mr. Smoe, and I don't see that. I don't see, especially considering I had 35 of these victims come to me. None of them said that she's compassionate. Maybe that's why they're dead, and that's probably why Mr. Smoe is alive. I would like to hear from Mr. Smoe maybe in the near future, especially if he has some more insights that he would like to share with us. How about you, Rob? Any last thoughts?
Well, yeah, you know, and thank you for asking us to come on tonight. It's been very, very interesting. I will be the first to admit I'm furthest thing from a Candleface expert, other than, you know, the amount of time that you and I have spoken, you know, me, you, and Sara about this. What I skimmed through on the website and on Facebook, but yeah, I think in the end, right, what I hear from Mr. Smoe is very interesting, right? It's a very interesting story. I listen to your twist or your take on the whole thing, and while they're connected, they seem to be a bit opposite. I honestly, like, I think Rich summed it up really, really well, that all the characteristics of Candleface make this a real tough one, right? So if we run with there's something dark there, right? Maybe it's the trickiest, darker entity ever. I don't know. If you run with Mr. Smoe's theory, then maybe it's, a blessing. I guess it's how you look at it. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Or at the very least should be seen by medical professionals. Agree, Bob. I mean, I think everybody, needs to make
Well,
sure that
let me read this because Mr. Smoe can't see the screen because his screen is pointing straight.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So one of the viewers says, no disrespect. I think to encourage this type of belief is dangerous to Mr. Smoe, or at the very least, he should be seen by a medical professional. What do you think about that, Mr. Smoe?
Well, I'm seen by a medical professional right now a lot, so I don't think that's it. I can tell you it's been a number of years, and it's straightened up my life. I don't have the contacts with her and death, so I don't see that part of it. But the part that I see is that she helped me and has helped others. And I feel, I mean, I know she comes to me sometimes, but I feel safe about it. I don't feel like I'm taken over by some demon, but I've squared away my life. I don't drink. I don't smoke.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. To Bob's comment, I'm not sure anybody's. I don't know if anybody could encourage Mr. Smoe. Mr. Smoe sounds very, very rigid in his thoughts and beliefs on this right now. And I don't disagree, right? And Mr. Smoe, you said you're being seen. I don't know if it's for what it's for, and it's none of my business or anybody else's, to be honest with you. But hearing, I'm glad you're talking about it now with Arthur. That part makes me happy for sure. But yeah, there's a lot of concern on the side from Rich and Bob and Wade, at least, that this could be something, bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And Wade, I'll read it for Wade's got his own stories, but and he sort of says it here. He says, "Please understand, I have complete compassion for Mr. Smoe's situation. He's been there and he was there alone. He recognizes the signals and the patterns. And he will close with this thought: there has been a lot of recognition with this manipulation by spirit." So just so you know, Wade picks things up, right? So Wade, if I'm wrong about your comment here, just let us know. But I'm pretty sure that Wade is saying spirit's talking to him and spirit's telling him that, there's some manipulation happening.
Yeah, Wade, I would like to have you on a show whenever I discuss another one of my the lost souls that come to me. I think you would be a good person to be on the show and give me your insights.
Yeah, and I'll close. So my final thought, right, before we shut this thing down, and it goes back to what Bob said, right? Sarah and I, we talked about it today, right? Oftentimes, it's the human element that brings in the paranormal, and I think one of the things we talked about today was sometimes it presents itself in different ways. It presents itself in a way that it knows it's going to get your attention, whatever it is, right? Whether that's ghost, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to frame it up as. Because we were on the discussion of, why do some people have these life-changing, Bigfoot, Sasquatch experiences? Why are for some is it, something scary like Candle Face? Like Candle Face, everything about her, aesthetically, the stories are scary, right? And if that's to get your attention, to pull you away from something really, really wicked or tragic, which happened for you, Mr. Smoe, I can see where that can be confusing as well. So I don't know. I mean, this opens up a lot of discussions and a lot of questions.
Which is the purpose of the podcast, to get discussions. But
I will say I disagree a little bit with respectfully so, with Bob. It's, I think, where what people need to understand, and this was part of our conversation today as well, to say it's dangerous to encourage when this is simply listening to people's story. And that is something that we talked about today, which is we often listen to respond, to have our opinion when we weren't a part of somebody's story. We were not a part of Mr. Smoe's story. He's sharing, we're listening. And when we all take an active role in listening to somebody's story and to what Arthur is trying to do, it's piecing things together. So it's not this blanket encouragement. Mr. Smoe is not here for all of us to validate. He knows what he went through. He knows what that day was for him. He knows what it felt like to have a gun in his hand. So I would just say respectfully that when we actively listen to somebody's story, whether you believe, don't believe, have a different thought on it, I think the first step is to hear the stories. It's to hear somebody's experience, and those things resonate with people. And it resonated with Wade, and it resonates with Rich. And there are pieces that they can then share with Mr. Smoe and with Arthur, and they can start to piece some things together. So that's all I would like to say. I think to make a statement that any of us are encouraging or discouraging, I think what we're doing here tonight is we are simply here to hear and to listen to somebody's story, to their story. It's theirs. It's not ours. It's theirs. And I think we need to be more, I think we all need to be more mindful in the paranormal and not jump on things to discredit them or tear them apart, but to listen, to truly listen to the living person's experience. My humble opinion. I'll get off my soapbox now. So thank you, Mr. Smoe, for sharing that, because that's a very personal part of his life that he's opened up.
It is.
Mr. Smoe, do you have anything else that you would like to add before we call off?
No, not really, other than I debated whether to say this or not, but it's not that I'm going to see mental health doctors. I have cancer.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, we are a little over time. I appreciate Sara and Infantry Rob for being here, asking some great questions and great insights. Mr. Smoe, I would like to keep an open line of communication with you. Your insights are amazing, and I'm around your neck of the woods quite often. I was just there 2 days ago in that area. I'd like to see you again if you would have me, and
Sure.
Maybe through time you could come up with maybe you could read the rest of my articles there on the blog, and we could figure out all the others
Sure.
out there.
I'm either home or at the doctor's.
Yeah. Okay, everybody, I really do appreciate it. This is a collaborative effort. It's just not me. I want everyone to participate. I may have 30 years experience as an intelligence analyst and investigator, but not much when it comes to paranormal investigation. So I could use everybody's help. This isn't about me. This isn't about you two or Mr. Smoe. This is about freeing the lost souls from Candle Face. And as what Sara was saying, we may need to know more about Candle Face in order to free the lost souls. And I think this collaborative effort with Candle Face Chronicles is the right way to go. And just like what Mr. Smoe said, it's better to believe just in case. So thank you, everybody, and I will see you next week. Thank you, Mr. Smoe.
All righty.
Thank you,
Bye-bye
Mr.
now.
Smoe.
Thank you, Mr. Smoe. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oof.
Wow. So
Did Sara leave? She just bolted.
yeah, I think Sara left.
Yeah, she had a long day. Yeah, I had a feeling.
You're still alive, just so everybody knows. You're still alive.
Okay. What did I do? How did I? There we go.